Okay, so I hope you've been working on your responses one item, one video at a time. Now you've got two left if you're working in order, and it's now time for item 3. We are not going to be looking at videos anymore. Instead, we're going to be reading stuff that I found on the internet. So let's go ahead and look at step 1. Of course, we're going to read the context and the question for this step with the professor. And I thought that maybe we could read this one together. But I think I'll let you do that on your own. So if you want to, what I recommend is pause the video and read through all of this. Because if you read from here to the end of this article, and it's just a short snippet, what I say next is going to make a lot more sense. So go ahead and pause the video and read through this. And then when you come back, we will start here. Okay, so assuming that you have read the article, some claim that the looting and destruction of property following the killing of George Floyd is a result of oppression that people are fed up with. Some go on to say that we should see that looting and the destruction of property is as an acceptable form of civil protest. In other words, we should at least tolerate it. It is interesting to note how McCary, or Barry McCary there in the article, a black business owner of a shop he's been trying to establish in the Deep Ellum area, appears to understand emotions associated with the killing of George Floyd. Yes, he says as a black man, right? But at the same time, does not fully condone that looting, the destruction, and I apologize, I have a Y that needs to be there, it seems. Does not fully condone what some are doing in the name of civil protest. So my question to you is, and make sure that you've read that article so we can have a common reference point, do you condone the damage that was done to Barry McCary's business as a form of civil protest? So condone means to accept and allow some kind of behavior to continue. So what's interesting to think as I'm asking you that question is to think, well, is it morally permissible for property to be destroyed and looted if it's done in the name of, or if it's a form of civil protest? And of course, a lot of that is going to have to do with whether or not you would even categorize the destruction of and looting of property as a form of civil protest, hence step 2. So here is one option, right? So option A for your paragraph construction. So you're going to, here you have a sentence to copy depending on your view. I do or do not condone the damage done to Barry McCary's business. And then, of course, that's your conclusion, your first sentence in italics. And then 3 more sentences or statements at least. If you can get all 3 statements in a single sentence, fine, but I don't encourage that. In fact, some people try to put all of the statements in one sentence and then I can't follow it. So remember, we're using statements in a very particular way. You have lots of examples. You have like 30 or 40 examples of statements versus arguments and the connection in the earlier lessons. So make sure you always refer back to that. And the rest of the semester, you've got to know how I'm using statement and argument and how that might be different from a statement in a court of law or a statement that's taken by a police officer. So anyway, so of course you're going to either say I do or do not, and then you'll give me the reasons, the why, and you'll try to, help me to see why you think that. But at the same time, I want you to think that you're trying to convince me of your belief. So if you think we should condone it, then try to believe that if you condone it, then I want you to imagine that you're trying to persuade me that I should also condone it. If you don't condone it, then as with the other arguments, you're trying to persuade me of something. Try to persuade me that I should not condone it. Remember that everything you say here should be relevant to making this point here. Anything you say here is trying to prove this, is trying to prove or help me see why you think this. And so, of course, you can say whether or not you do or don't condone something. That in itself is a conclusion. When you say, I condone this, that is a conclusion you've reached. In other words, you think it's okay for something to happen. So in that sense, you are still persuading me with what you write down here. So you're not convincing me that that's what you think. What I really mean by that in this case is that you're trying to convince me that I should also condone it. So that's kind of the mindset I want you to have. So going back up to item 2, what did we say? So yeah, that one, okay. So that one I don't want to elaborate on in that way at all. Okay, So I needed to point that out there. So as with the other ones, you have the choice between option A, option B. Again, if you're not sure, then it's not rational for you to take a position. Then you're going to copy this sentence, and then you're either going to focus your reasoning and logic using this option or strategy, or, but not both, using this option for your logic, your reasoning, your strategy. Again, make sure you go to the examples where these were presented, and make sure you go back to the videos where I talk about how to use the examples as templates or loose templates. Okay, so that's all I have for this option, and we're almost done with this set of videos. And if you're following my directions and suggestions, then you're almost done with week 2.